Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again to Marketing from a Digital Perspective, brought to you by iLocal and the researchGiant. And boy, I tell you, it has not only been hot lately, it has been crazy, but we're glad that you're back with us on this glorious morning. It looked like it's going to be a great day. A big shout out last week to our guest last week. Wanted to say thank you for coming on board with us. But today we have a special guest with us, James Christnacht, attorney, and he was so gracious to come on the show this morning. Welcome.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to just jump right in, and we're going to talk a little bit about his business and what he's doing digitally, and then talk about all the things that he's been doing. You were telling me before the podcast, James, or Jim, I think you go by Jim more so than James. You were telling me that you're a second-generation attorney.
That's correct.
So was it your dad or
It was my dad who was the attorney before me.
Awesome. So obviously you took a liking to the law and all of this good stuff. What's your favorite kind of law to practice within your practice?
Well, I think mainly what I like to do is to meet with people, and that's been a real tough thing with this COVID crisis.
Yeah.
We really haven't had clients coming in. You've been trying to meet with people without actually physically being face to face.
We're gonna have to get some Zoom going here,
right? That may be the case, but that isn't any fun either. And so I like to talk to people, and that's mainly what my focus has been. I call myself a people's lawyer,
right?
And so I help people, anywhere from estate planning. We do wills, powers of attorney, healthcare directives. I work the other end after they pass. We do the probates and handle their estates, and to move on from there. I do some misdemeanor criminal work. I always kind of like to do that one because it's usually they're people who have never been involved in the criminal system before,
right?
And they're learning about something that it's a real nice it's a helpful thing to help them get through that experience and kind of help them through it.
Wow!
And so I do personal injury work. I've done a lot of real estate work.
What don't you do? I mean, you do a lot.
I don't do labor and industries, bankruptcy.
Okay, well there you go.
And that's about in essence, I've done lots of different things. I've had securities trials. That was one of the a lot of things. It's just a learning experience, but it's been primarily I'm I guess a people's lawyer.
I like that, a people's lawyer. So many times I've dealt with a lot of lawyers in my career with helping them with their advertising, placing their marketing plans and putting them out there in front of, a swath of people. But I wanted to just kind of tee this up with you. Oftentimes when you sit down and you deal with an attorney with whatever law they're practicing, I guess my question to you is, and I'm just trying to articulate this the right way, when you sit down with somebody, is it so much the law or the issue that they're having, or more so the person or the people that you're dealing with? How do you make that determination when you're going to take on the case? Is it the person, or is it primarily just the case itself?
I think it's usually the person, and then you get into the case as you develop it, and you get into the issues that are involved there. But a lot of it is the person you're dealing with.
Okay.
And that's kind of I grew up with it, and I grew up to help people, and so you've got the people who sometimes I think as the case progresses, it's more my case than it is the client's case, and I'm more concerned about it than they are. I've had cases where I had one divorce trial, or was supposed to be a divorce trial, we got continued, but the client, he said, well, I got this thing at work I got to take care of first, and so I'll be there as quick as I can. And so it was like, this is your divorce, you're set for trial, and he had his thing,
So what happened in that situation? Did you had to?
Well, they actually ended up continuing the case because of court congestion. So we really didn't know what was happening, but it was just kind of odd, that
he decided that something else was more important than this case,
right? Than his case,
right?
His divorce, and so it's kind of
Maybe he
But
still
that's-
loved her.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. But it was,
Okay.
shoot, I want to keep my job.
Yeah.
And so I have to go into these meetings and I'll be there as quick as I can.
Wow.
And that's kind of what, but, I think we end up becoming more involved sometimes in the case than they do, if that
Wow.
makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I know about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was dealing with one attorney, and I had gotten into a car accident. I got hit by a semi-truck not from behind, from the front. He backed into me. And I had one attorney, unfortunately, he was going through some physical challenges, and so he had to kick my case over to another attorney. And boy, they jumped right in, and they assumed that case, and they got things done in a shorter amount of time. Now, obviously, the other attorney probably put in a lot of legwork to get it to where it was, but man, they did an awesome job for me. And like you said, they were really personable. They really sought to, or they really tried to understand where I was and what I wanted out of the case and where I was health wise and the whole 9 yards. So it really worked, and that people element of it, I can see where that comes in big time, because you can kind of size up like, ooh, gosh, I don't know if I want to take this case, because this guy could be, or gal could be all over the board.
That's true. You see that too as well. Even in the cases you do take, and you learn about the person as you're going through it. You kind of learn about how this person acts and what their responses are, how they react to the stress of the case or the situation.
Now, have you ever been in a situation where you've taken on a case and it's going along splendidly, everything is just tracking the way it's supposed to be going, and then all of a sudden it just goes dark? And then, in those instances, what do you do? Do you just reach out to the client, or do you just, like, okay, let's
I want to ask you a question. What does dark mean?
Dark means that they're not responding to you. They've fallen off the face of the earth. Have you ever had those cases like that where
I've had those. Actually, I think I've got one of them right now. I'm trying to do resolve the same way. I thought I had the case settled, and the client goes dark.
Yeah,
You just wonder, what's going on. How do I get a response?
That kind of sounds like us when we build a website sometimes. Some of our clients, they get busy and everything else is going on in their businesses, practices, etc. And then we're playing the chase game just to kind of like, hey, look, this is almost done. We need your input, and we need you to do this, that, and the other. So I can understand where you're coming from, because it happens to us in the digital realm, figuring out, hey, you like this color? Do you like this font? Do you like this picture? Do you like this? You like that? This design, etc. So I can understand that from your perspective. So what are the funnest cases you like to kind of pick up and you like to take on, as far as people coming through the door? Do you have one particular case of law that you really, really like opposed to the other?
Well, one that's been really kind of fun that I've done a fair number of have been adult adoptions.
Adult adoptions.
Right, and that's kind of a neat thing where you've got, let's say a step-parent. Mm-hmm. And, let's say that, stepdad has raised this kid, and now the child is in their 20s or even 30s. And it's kind of a neat thing to do, is to kind of solidify a relationship, because primarily, stepfather, there's really no legal relationship between the two of them. And so now we can say that, stepdad adopts this child as his own. And so now the child is actually entitled to inherit through him. And it's really, those are kind of fun, because it kind of just, it formalizes that relationship between, these two. And I've even had a couple of them where I've done them where I'm going to say that the parents had actually divorced.
Oh, wow.
And
interesting.
And so, mom and stepdad divorced, but stepdad goes and adopts a daughter or son. And so
interesting.
So it's really kind
Okay.
of it's a fun thing, and you're not terminating the rights of anybody else. And it's just kind of now all of a sudden, you've added an extra parent to that child's life.
Wow.
And usually they're adults, and so they could be in their 20s or 30s.
So I'm trying to figure out, how can I leverage this for me? If any adult out, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Any adult out there that needs a stepson or needs to be adopted, maybe I can get me a little inheritance or something along the way.
That could be the case too, but it's kind of, but what's neat is, though, it does formalize that relationship these people have had. In essence, a lot of times they've raised that child from a young age through adulthood, and had a great relationship with them, and it really kind of formalizes that. Those are kind of, you talk about something that's kind of fun to do.
Yeah,
The other
yeah.
one, which I've done, and it's kind of, sometimes I wonder if it's talking about some things being dark. I've gone in and restored, I guess, felons' rights. We come in and vacate a conviction after somebody's been, say 20 years, 30 years. They've always had this cloud hanging over their head. And we go in and have that vacated and dismissed. There are certain felonies you can do that with. And now all of a sudden they can say, I've never been convicted of a felony.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing.
It
That
really is.
yeah.
But you look at, I'm looking at you smiling right now, and that's kind of the way that the person feels.
Yeah.
You can kind of see that they've had a cloud over their head for years, and it's they just don't want to tell people this is what
Right.
in my past. But once you get that done, it's
Yeah,
it
and
kind of changes life.
Jim, and I'm not smiling like, oh my gosh, Jim, I need you to vacate something that's happened in my past. No, I'm smiling because I can understand, where they're coming from. It's like this big weight
Right. And
has lifted off of them, and now they're able to kind of move about the cabin, if you will,
Right.
and go about life as though that never existed.
right. And in essence, that's actually in the court order that they can say that. And so it's neat because then they can go in and, shoot. Sometimes it's a housing issue. Can I rent a place? Well, you got this felony on your record. You can't do it. But if we take it off of there, then that's something that's a positive. It helps them get jobs.
Yeah,
They
can vote.
Right, they
yeah.
can vote. And sometimes it's back to, our Second Amendment rights, the gun rights. They can we can restore those. So there's lots of things that we can do, but those are things that are positive, and it kind of helps people. And that's kind of like I said, I like to do things that help people, and so that's those are just a couple of things that I've done where you really have kind of a positive impact on somebody's life.
No, that's awesome. And while you were saying that, Jim, I saw your countenance change. You started to smile more, and it's like, because that's something that you really, really want to help people, based on their circumstances, get relief from, and put them in a better situation, long term, short term, and where they can feel as though they're a vital part of society again, and be a contributor. So
Right, and that's kind of the neat part about it. What you just said there, a vital part of society. I think before they've, a lot of those folks, I don't want to pigeonhole them, but you kind of, look at it that way. They don't want to be out in society because of their history.
yeah, no,
And so
no.
it's a neat thing.
No, that is. I mean, and I look at that, and when you have that kind of mantra, if you have that kind of mindset of helping people, sometimes you have to get into the weeds and figure out, okay, how can I really help he or she get down the road? Because I can see that they're struggling in different parts of their life because of this one thing or this other thing that, like you said, this casting of a cloud over them or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really kind of, takes that cloud, out from over their head, and they can kind of see things differently.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, listening, the audience out there, if you have somebody that is in one of those situations, give Jim a call. I think we have that at the bottom of the screen. He is, like you said, he's very personable. He's a people's kind of guy. He wants to help. So just keep all that in mind. I just wanted to throw that out there. Transitioning here, just for a moment here, I want to talk a little bit about. I know that iLocal, we designed your website, and putting you out there on the web, et cetera. And as you alluded to earlier, you said that you're so used to people coming down and sitting in front of you and having that one-on-one, and now it's a different tempo, a different environment. But based on your website being out there, what type of calls or what type of responses are you getting from your website right now?
We're getting some calls, but what's kind of nice is that the website, people are getting information about me and about what I do before they call, and we're learning that how to make that work. The other thing we had a little bit of a a snafu, I think, to begin with, because there's a thing on there that says if you want to talk to me, you I'm going to say dial your information in there and send it to me, but we were sending it somewhere we shouldn't be, and I didn't even know that was even existing, and so we got that all squared away, and so now it comes to my email.
That's awesome.
So that's
yeah. So in other words, what he said there, obviously, hey, I don't know, maybe someone put in a wrong digit or a wrong character or whatever, but now he's getting forms. Those are called web forms. So people can go on his website, fill out a form about what they're going through, and it gets right to his email, and he can look that up and respond back to him digitally or give him a call or schedule something, etc. So that's good. So as far as those phone calls are coming in, what in this environment, because I know this has been a weird year just overall, but what types of calls or what type of cases have been coming in through your website just as of late?
I think probably the ones that are coming in are people who are looking for estate planning, powers of attorney, wills, and that kind of thing right now.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of, now I think we're realizing our mortality is the best description.
Yeah.
And so people, they're trying to set up, for their future, get their wills done, and the powers of attorney if they're sick, those are things that we're talking about. The others, which we had done a bunch of, I get a number of calls on guardianship type work, and that's a whole different animal in itself too.
Do you think that guardian thing has anything to do with, like you said, the mortality rate? We're getting up there. We're seeing all of this crazy stuff happening in the marketplace. So people are trying to maybe get their houses in order, but maybe there's some guardian things within that sphere, if you will. I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
Well,
I'm not sure.
The guardian is kind of a whole different animal. Mm-hmm. It's something that goes through the court system, and so you've got other people who are involved in, and usually it's a disabled person, and they have to be found incompetent or incapacitated, I guess is the correct term, mm-hmm. before they can, a guardian can be appointed. But then you've got, and other people involved in their world, I guess is the best description.
Wow.
But they're appointed as guardian. There's an alternative to that, or I guess it's a lesser restrictive alternative. That's the power of attorney. And a lot of times that's what people really need, and that should be done in advance, because then you give somebody else power of attorney, so in case you do become incapacitated, then that person can take over. And you usually try and have alternate persons too as well, so in case the other one has a problem, they like we leave here, we get hit by a bus, and you lose that person. So you try and you throw a couple of people in there, so at least that way you've got some sort of coverage. And so that's mainly, if you don't have anything like that, then we kind of reach into the guardianship realm. Mm-hmm. Because then a lot of times it's because there isn't somebody who can take over. And so that's where you're talking about planning in advance. Mm-hmm. And that's where the power of attorney is a neat way to plan in advance.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know my wife and I, we've gone through this with our attorney and power of attorneys, and the kids lined up, and if something were to happen to the first one, then it goes to the second one, the third one, and making sure that the will and all that other stuff, etc. If my kids are listening, I don't have a whole lot, so just keep that in mind. We're good. But I wanted to ask you, if you had a magical wand right now, you can wave your magical wand, and you could put information out there in the marketplace about what you do. What would be those top 3 things that you really want to promote about your business? Because I know you do a whole lot in your practice. You do a whole lot, but there are some things that you really enjoy. So if you were to, staple those 1, 2, or 3 things, what would those things be?
Well, I think the first one would probably be the estate planning, the wills, and the powers of attorney. Talking to people about that and planning for their future. Mm-hmm. I think that's the primary one. Next would be, I guess I'm back to liking to help people, and so I enjoy. I don't do a lot. It's kind of funny. You talk in terms of percentages, maybe. The felony vacations and cleaning up persons, criminal records. That's probably a minor portion, but they're fun to do. Mm-hmm. And And misdemeanor criminal work is the same thing. It's kind of it's a small portion of my practice, but those are the things that are kind of fun to do. But we don't see as much of that. And so the others, I like to do the personal injury work. I do a lot of that. And then I also I do some real estate work too as well.
Now, when you say real estate work, what does that entail? Is that just, buying and selling, or is that?
Could be buying and selling. It could be, evictions or landlord-tenant type things.
Oh, okay.
We're kind of in a whole different world now in that as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. With this CARES Act, yeah.
With all of the moratorium that's going on
Right.
right now, we can't, you can't, I feel sorry for a lot of the landlords because they've got people who don't have the money to pay their rent, and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah.
But that's the way kind of life is, and so we're learning about that. And so, like you said, the CARES Act, I don't know if that relates back to, there was something that the president was talking about, a moratorium
Right.
federally through the middle of October, I think. And then we also have, the governor here doing the same thing, and he's been doing that little bits at a time through things.
Yeah.
But so that's, landlord tenant. I've done, what should I call it? Adverse possession, boundary line cases. Those are always kind of interesting. And primarily they're interesting because, people, when you own your piece of property, it's kind of your kingdom. And so we're trying to protect our boundaries. It's almost, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got property lines, and you want to make sure someone doesn't infringe upon your property line, or they're encroaching.
Right. Or the other is, I want to move farther out because I've been using this for X number of years. So I want to increase the size of my kingdom. And so you see that too as well.
So you get the actual plans, and you're like, wait a minute, you're like 40 feet over your property line, and you've been infringing upon this guy for the last X amount of years. We got to do something here.
Right.
Okay. So I get that. That makes sense.
Or adverse possession is what they call kind of that whole realm of law. And it's always usually we're never dealing with 40 feet. It's usually, 2 feet, inches to what, It's
Are you
usually
serious?
small amounts of property.
So people can get that petty, 2 inches, 2 feet.
Well, I came across one. It was actually in an estate that I worked where the next door neighbor, the two neighbors had actually reached an agreement because there was a chain link fence. Whoever put the chain link fence in didn't quite put it in straight. And so it kind of went at an angle. So on one side we were 6 inches over, and then at the other side it was 6 inches on their side. And so those were things that were kind of...
So how did that, so what, they pull out the fence and just plumb it and make it straight?
What they did is they reached an agreement where they gave each other an easement to use the property on each side until, as long as they were there. I guess it went with the property. So the next guy who bought the easement as well with it.
Wow.
And so,
6 inches.
Yeah, but that's it. That's where I'm saying it's your kingdom. And so people are worried about their kingdom. And so that's what happens.
Well, I guess I better go and measure my fence and make sure it's 6 inches in or out and go from there. But no,
Right.
that's...
Well, they always talk about, when you put your fence up, you should put it inside the property line.
Right.
And so, but you need to know where that property line is first before you do it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that, people would be that petty, over, that's 6 inches. That's
I don't know
nothing.
if it's petty. It's a lot. Like I said, it's their kingdom.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the best way to describe it. And I think once you think of it in those terms, it makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Yeah. Looking at it from that angle and that perspective, absolutely.
And they're trying to protect what's theirs, and so that's what they do.
I'm going to protect what's mine.
Yep.
Yeah, 6 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch. I'm protecting what's mine. So that definitely makes sense. So all of you guys out there listening to us on this morning, and like I said, he does all kinds of different case law and helping people, through their life challenges, et cetera, et cetera. By all means, give Jim a call. I mean, you can see how he's got a real relaxed demeanor. He smiles when he talks about it, the things that he loves to do in his practice, and he's a second generation attorney, which is awesome. So let's do this. We talk about marketing from a digital perspective. This all makes sense because when we said a little earlier in the show about marketing, he's with iLocal and he's doing his website. He's getting web form leads through the website. When people go on there, they go right to his email. And then he talked about, hey, look, let's do. If I had my top three areas that I wanted to promote, those. So we'll be talking about that obviously, because obviously in this environment, we need to make sure that we're keeping your name out there. We're getting the cases that you want to get and the whole 9 yards. So I'm going to give you a space and time where you can tell the listening audience why they should be doing business with you if they ever run into any of those practices or any of those case law that they're struggling with, whatever that is, from real estate to wills and estate, whatever they're up in front of, I should say, or dealing with in this particular point in time, because it's crazy out there. And like you said, there's a lot of estate planning going on or whatever. So if you don't have your house in order, by all means, give Jim a call. But Jim, tell us, make that bid. If this was your 30-second, hey, I'm going to win you over, go ahead and tell the listening audience what you're all about.
Well, I think primarily I'm about helping people. And that's when I first started in this, that was what, how do I describe it? We had to write the letter to the law school and your application. What do you want to do? And that was where I came in, was to help people. And that was kind of like we said, where I'm a second generation lawyer. And what's actually kind of fun is that I am located now, I'm going to say probably, within 3 or 4 blocks of where my dad had his office for a period of time, within a mile. I think everything that I've done in the last 35 years has been out in the University Place, out by TCC in that area. And so it's kind of all in the same place. What's fun is that where I am right now, the fellow who built the building, John Rhea was his name, he's an State Farm insurance agent. He and my uncle went to high school together. I didn't realize that until I moved in there. And then, like I said, I'm now within a few blocks of where my dad was for probably 10, 15 years. And he had before when I was still a kid. And so, these are things, I'm out there with people, and that's what I like to deal with. I don't deal with, the big, huge corporations or a lot of that, I don't know, I'm going to call it fancy law for lack of a better term. But, I deal with people. And that's what I enjoy working with, and I think I've done well at it.
Awesome. So how would someone get in touch with you?
253-565-0270.
Awesome. And then also you can reach him on his website. And that website, I believe it's scrolling at the bottom of the page, but we can definitely, if you want to say it again.
Sure. The website is jfclawoffice.com. The JFC is those are my initials. I also, Regis helped me pick the name.
Yay!
And then the only one I got a kick out of, a few people have told me it's also JF Claw Office. So I suppose that's, as a lawyer, that makes sense too.
There you go, clawing.
Right.
So I want to say, thank you so much, Jim, for coming on today and spend a little time with us just to talk about, what you're into, the type of law that you're practicing, and hopefully someone out there in the listening audience has, said, hey, look, great guy, I've got an issue with X, Y, and Z. Give him a call. He's here to help. And like I said, he's a people's guy, and he will definitely point you in the right direction. For all of you out there that are looking for a digital marketing agency, you're looking for help around your website, or you're trying to promote it through search engine optimization, or if you want even a directory listing, you can get that through researchGiant, which is our directory listing. It is a great platform for you to get additional visibility out there in the marketplace. And of course, with search engine optimization, please give us a call. We're at 206-790-1999. Again, that's 206-790-1999. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Thank you again, Jim, for coming on and being my co-pilot this morning with marketing from a digital perspective. See you again next week. Thank you. Stay safe out there and stay hydrated. It's going to be a hot day today. Talk to you soon.